Welcome to the 3am podcast. My name's DJ.
My name's Charlie.
My name is Sean.
Been doing this for a few years now. We're coming up on 4.
Damn, it's been that long, dude?
Yeah. Telling stories, making light of it all. So, this is still the beginnings of this new form content that we're experimenting with, which is more of a deep dive, one story a week, longer form, more complete versions of story.
We hope you guys are enjoying.
We briefly talked about it earlier, and it feels pretty good so far. So we'll see how else it goes and how it grows. On that note, today we put out a message on Discord and our Instagram. If you're not on either, you're hearing it now, but we're wanting to, with this long form content and deep dives, start like a research team. The goal for this team is to do just that, but really help us like farm good content. I'm talking about like history, facts, articles, different forms of media, from images to audio to video, personal stories, whether it's from you or somebody you know. But just like really kind of dissecting specific topics, and we'll let the research team know in advance what those topics are so they can have a chance to spend some time on it. Yeah, kind of, I don't know, help us help you guys more. So things like that.
We've talked about it in the past because like a lot of the times we'll share a story about a topic, and then after the fact we'll have like 6, 7, 10 listeners send things in after we've covered it. Yeah. And it will be like, oh my gosh, my mom was there, or oh my gosh, I live right by that, this and this happened. And so it's sort of a way to like put the bat signal out before we cover a topic, see if anyone is close to the story or has like unique knowledge stories that we can include when we cover it, rather than always going back. So it's been fun so far. Like we've only been doing it for one day and already it's yielded some things. We have like a private channel that we're all chatting on, and I see it going somewhere. Like it could be really fun. So yeah, if you're interested at all, head over to our Discord or hit us up on IG.
Yeah. So somebody in chat said, if we have an idea for a story, should we DM it to you or post it in the channel?
Yeah.
Either or. We're going to try to centralize the conversations within that
Discord.
Yeah, Discord channel. So everyone's on the same page. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out to us, get connected on Discord, and we'll add you to that channel, give you the researcher role. But yeah, pretty exciting. There's not a ton of structure to it right now. So we're going to start building that out, like what the expectations are, because we want this to be, I guess, effective. Like we want people who are good at this. Yeah, if it goes well, I don't know, maybe some compensation involved. So
Dope. All right, You want to get into it?
How are you doing, Charles?
Tired. I've been up since 3
a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
How's baby?
Good. Baby's healthy. Oh yeah, I guess I'll give the listeners an update. Guys, just an update on me and my life. I'm working remote. I'm recording remote, as you can see by my shitty ass camera. And baby is healthy, mom's healthy, so I can't complain. We finally have reached like a state of normalcy, and now we're just trying to like figure out schedules and routine. So that's where we're at. It feels really good. I'm high risk, or the baby's high risk for the cold, so they've suggested I stay away from as many people as possible. So that's where we're at. Thank you for all the kind words and the support. And that's us. All right,
yes,
getting into stories. So we talked about covering different topics. I don't know why, I can't remember what it was, but the topic I decided to choose, I felt like is a perfect topic for the Halloween season. So to open, I'm going to read a quote. And the quote is, "Diabolical forces are formidable. These forces are eternal, and they exist today. The fairy tale is true. The devil exists, God exists, and for us as people, our very destiny hinges upon which one we elect to follow." And that's a quote by a famous American demonologist by the name of Ed Warren.
Woo!
And for those who are into the paranormal at all or have seen a scary movie in the last 20 years, you're probably likely familiar with Ed and Lorraine Warren. So we've decided to cover them. This is potentially a part one. We'll see how it goes because there's just so much to cover. These two are iconic figures in the paranormal. They've done over 1,000 investigations all over America. Before I dive in too deep, I got a lot of my information from one, the movies that we've seen. Two, Wendigoon did a video on the Warrens. And then three, Sean was kind enough to purchase a book called The Demonologist by Gerald Brittle, or Gerald. And it's basically a book that like deep dives into the lives of the Warrens, and it's crazy dense with info. Like, that's why I said this might be a part one, because he got it a couple days ago and I've had a couple days to like get into it. And I'm only like 6 chapters in out of like, I don't know, like 30 chapters. You know what I mean? So anyway, regardless, crazy book. It's really in depth, and I've been enjoying it so far. It's like, I really like it. So those are the sources. Let's talk about the Warrens. When I say the Warrens, what comes to your mind? Like anything off the bat before your research?
The Conjuring.
All their movies. The Conjuring,
Yeah.
Annabelle, The Nun, La Llorona.
Dude, crazy how many are what's it called? Inspired by them. I think there's like more than 25 movies and shows. The Crooked Man, The Nurse, The Nun, The Conjuring 1, 2, The Conjuring 3, Annabelle, Annabelle 2, Annabelle 3, The Haunting in Connecticut, The Haunted, Amityville Horror. There's like 20 versions of the Amityville Horror.
La Llorona, uno, dos, tres.
Cuatro, cinco, seis, baby. So needless to say, like their life is a treasure trove of experiences and knowledge, right?
Mhm.
They're a pretty controversial figure in paranormal as far as like how accurate and how truthful all of their accounts are. There's a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of people out there who question maybe all the stories. So tonight we're going to go forward having fun, assuming everything is real, but we might talk a little bit about those skeptics at the end. Anyway, DJ, can you pull up photo 1?
Yeah, I got you.
So Ed and Lorraine Warren, while DJ pulls that up. American paranormal investigators. Ed on the right is a self-taught, self-professed demonologist. One of his like monikers, or one of his calling card things, is he's the only non-clergy official demonologist and exorcist that's recognized by the Catholic Church. So he's like not a priest, or anything like that, and he's the only one. They're like, yeah, he's legit. So
He's legit.
Yeah,
That's like
got the hood
that's like
pass from the Vatican.
Yeah, that's like getting the N-word pass, or like an American getting dubbed sir by the Queen.
Yeah, there you go. Lorraine on the left. She's a self-proclaimed clairvoyant. She, since a young age, like saw auras and would see things that she thought were kind of normal, and then eventually in her life learned that they weren't normal. Like not everyone sees auras or sees like visions of the future, things like that. And so these two had a relationship. They worked really closely together. They've always had an interest in the paranormal, and it kind of by accident potentially became their entire life. And they spent most of their life doing paranormal investigations and trying to help people. So we're going to dive into them. In 1952, the Warrens founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, or NESPR, which is dope. I think that's some nerd shit. And I'm here for it.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
It's part of 3 a.m. to be honest.
And honestly, yeah, with the whole research group, it's kind of like in the same vein of what they did. It's the
We're at the
oldest
same
ghost hunting
level
group
as-
in New England. Oh yeah,
Crazy.
easily, if not above.
Oh yeah.
So, like I said, their contribution to paranormal and physical or psychic research is just huge. Like the knowledge that they bring, the way that they clarify types of entities, types of hauntings. Ed got really into collecting video and photographic evidence, and so he has a huge, what's it called? A huge like library
Archive.
of photo evidence. Yeah, and we will see a couple tonight. So their understanding with like God, the devil, angels, demons, ghosts, is all through the lens of like Catholicism, because they were Catholic growing up. And so like that is the paradigm in which they see good and evil, life after life. I feel like the Catholic Church, as far as like demons, have had like a chokehold on how American society like sees demonic possession, demons, and hauntings. It's like every scary movie you see, it's a Catholic priest, a bottle of holy water,
Power
the
of Christ
cross.
compels you.
Yeah, chucking that
Wow.
shit. So this is that same thing. If you've seen like The Exorcist, like it's the same rules and engagements are very similar. Throughout their lives, they had a ton of notable cases. A lot of those cases became inspirations for those scary movies that we mentioned before. And like I said, they have skeptics. There's people out there who have like set their whole life on disproving them. So whether you believe or not, some of the stories are really fun, and we'll dive into some of them. So, like I said, Sean got me the book, The Demonologist, and like, dude, right off the bat, super fun. The way it starts, hella fun. Like I said, it's
how does it read? Is it like a biography kind of thing, or is it
Science fiction?
Definitely not science fiction. Gerald Brittle, I think he like interviewed them. He talked to people. The very beginning, he talks about how he vetted this book, and believe it or not, like it's up to you, but this is what he says, and I'm going to present it as he presents it. But he talks a lot about how he vetted this book, and there's a ton of stories he left out because there just wasn't enough evidence. So he really tried to only include the stories that had eyewitness
Substantial.
accounts.
Damn.
Yeah. Eyewitness accounts, photo, video, multiple people there. They were recognized by the Vatican. Priests were there and like signed off. So he talks a lot about how like the Warrens, at least in the circles they were running in, were widely respected and like valid in the eyes of like the Vatican and a ton of researchers. So like that's how he starts. He attests to their like how good they were, and he says like they were just generally good people who had like good, happy outlooks on life. And like their whole goal was to just like help people overcome these hard situations and maybe find resolution or get some peace. But right after he does all that, we open up right into the thick of things. Ed and Lorraine are in the middle of an investigation. They've spent their whole day at a haunting in a house, and they witness some pretty heavy things. They drive all the way home from Long Island, New York, and they finally get to their home. Lorraine goes up to her room. She's getting ready for bed. She grabs one of her books and she starts reading. While Ed goes downstairs, he goes to his office, which is like a small, cozy cottage that's like separate from the house, connected only by a long, dark hallway. So he's like in his own little world, and he's writing notes down about the day and the investigation. You can imagine he has like, it's dark, it's stormy, it's late at night, it's New England. He has an office full of photos and books and knickknacks and books on the occult, books on religion, and he's writing away and he's doing all these notes. So, as he's writing, the clock ticking chimes 3 times, signaling it's 3 a.m. He stops writing for a second. He's quiet and he looks around. Nothing. Goes back to writing. As he's going through his notes, he hears Lorraine come down the stairs. He hears the latch of the door click and her take 3 steps into the hallway. And he continues to write, and he's excited because he's like, yeah, I really could use like a cup of coffee right now. So this is nice. And he leans back in his chair. He looks down the super dark hall and he goes, I'm in here. Lorraine? Lorraine? No answer. All at once, he can hear the wind of the what's it called? The wind of the storm outside, and it starts to grow louder. A shift in the room. He has goosebumps. He thinks about everything that just happened, and he realizes she only took 3 steps. and she stopped. Something's going on. As he thinks that, the lights go out in his office. The temperature drops to freezing. And the entire room is filled with the overwhelming odor of sulfur. And Ed knows what the is up. This is not his first rodeo. The howl of the wind starts to grow, and he realizes it's not outside. It's inside. He looks down the dark hallway, and he can see like a dark shadow taking shape. It starts small, and it starts growing, and it becomes like the shape of a man, and it gets huge. It like fills the hallway. And as he's watching it, the howling gets louder, and the dark shadow starts to take a more solid shape. He knows what this is. He knows what's going on, and he knows I have to act quick. So he opens his drawer real quick, grabs holy water, grabs a crucifix, and stands up. And as he takes a couple steps towards the shadow moves defiantly towards him. And he's like, oh shit. So he uncorks the holy water, starts throwing it on the shadow, and he hits the shadow with the ancient prayer command rather, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave. The shadow stops in its tracks, but it doesn't disappear. He raises his cross one more time, ready to yell, and it slowly at first, but then quickly disappears out the back of the door. As it's leaving, it hits Ed with a vision, and he sees his wife Lorraine in a violent car crash. As he's kind of trying to like contemplate or like understand what he's seeing, he hears the sound of animals in the hallway attacking each other, fighting for their life. One is ripping the other one. It sounds as if like a dog is shredding another animal.
So all of this is one experience. Like,
yeah,
shadow disappears, and then I don't
and
know,
then he
almost like
sees
residual
the vision,
kind of.
Sees the vision of Lorraine dying, and hears the animals all at the same time.
Wow!
And because he hears the animals, he knows there's no animals in my house. There's no animals in the hallway. This thing is not gone, and his thoughts travel upstairs to Lorraine, who's in the bedroom. Now, switching over to Lorraine, she's upstairs. She's in her room. She's all ready for bed. She's reading her favorite book. And over the years of doing paranormal investigations, she's gotten really accustomed to not going to sleep until Ed is there. It's kind of like, just their routine. She goes upstairs and reads. He goes and works in his office. As she's working, she pauses because she can sense something, and she hears a loud boom in the house. Downstairs at first. She said, it's a repeated boom. Boom, 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 boom. It sounds as if someone's like hitting a corrugated iron sheet. And she could hear something like moving from room to room. And very quickly, a couple things happen. Her dogs, the hair stands up on the back of their body. She knows that there's a force in the house, and it's searching for her, and it's moving closer to her. As she's like understanding all this, the door to her room bursts open, and this shadow like zooms into the room. Instantly, she's like paralyzed. She can't speak, and an insane amount or feeling of like hopelessness overcome her. And it sounds like sleep paralysis. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The room is freezing. She can see her breath. It's holding her down. And psychically, she said, I knew that this was a spirit of death. It wanted me. It wanted my being. And so in her mind, she tries to call on the name of God. And as she does that, she's able to like finally regain movement in her body. And she hits the shadow with a cross. She pop, 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 pop. Does some ninjutsu or some shit. Yeah. Hits him with that Christian ninjutsu. And when she hits him with the cross, the shadow like releases her. At the same time, Ed runs into the room. And as he runs into the room, the shadow pauses and then zooms up and out of their chimney.
Their
It's
chimney.
Santa Claus,
Did you say
dude.
their chimney?
Yeah. And it's gone.
Some evil Santa Claus shit right there.
This is like how the book opens. This kind of sounds like a casual encounter that these two experience potentially on a like regular basis, dude.
This was just a normal Tuesday night.
That's a classic opening for like any of those like Conjuring movies too.
Kind
Like
of.
the super jarring experience to open up the
Got
the
some
scene.
good jump scares.
Yeah, and then
Yeah. So this is how we open. This is Ed and Lorraine's life. They've created a life of paranormal investigation where they travel around the country, actually around the world, trying to help people. And they really are, from what it sounds like, in a constant battle between good and evil in like a very real, visceral way. They would travel around the U.S. holding conferences or conventions where they would give like, what's the word? Shit. Lectures. They would have lectures where they would go over all of their stuff. And this was in a time in like the 80s, the 90s.
Satanic Panic, dude.
Exactly.
Yep.
So out of nowhere, they're getting way interested in, like when they were young, they start getting really interested in the paranormal. They start like doing paranormal investigations, and then Satanic Panic happens. So the public is super interested.
Are
And so
they
they start doing
kind of the champion of like these Christians who are like really fighting it, or are they like kind of wary of it? You know what I mean?
No, explain.
You see what I'm asking? Because like the Satanic Panic was met with like super overzealous Christians who were taking everything D&D.
Like, don't play D&D.
Yeah, don't like, and like this is like the devil at work, and it might seem like fun and whatever. Those people, who was Ed and Lorraine Warren to them? Do we know?
Like, where did they fall on that?
Yeah, were they like, oh, cool, like this is good, they're fighting evil, or?
So actually, that's like great question. They kind of address it. So at these lectures in these town meetings across the U.S., they would end with Q&As, question and answers, and that would last for hours. The public was interested. They had questions, and they address that in saying like they do believe that a casual attitude towards the occult is dangerous. It doesn't always yield bad results, but it is like playing with fire.
Who believed, Ed and
essentially.
Lorraine, or?
Yeah. And
Okay.
Ed talked about that. He said like, you know, like these things they can yield results, but they don't guarantee results. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
So it didn't seem like they were like, you know, the religious zealot that was like, we need to, you know, ban Dungeons and Dragons, but they were like, this is definitely nothing to like play around with. And like, it is a path that if you accidentally go down, like you could find yourself in a spot where you don't want to be found.
Makes
You know
sense.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So the public continues to ask questions. They have a thirst for knowledge. And one of them is they're asking about the particular case that these two were investigating at the time. And they said, so is the house haunted? You know, is there ghosts there? Is there a haunting? And Ed thinks for a moment and he says, yes, but not by a human ghost. And everyone's, you know, perks up. And what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Can you explain? And he basically goes, yeah, there's two kind of hauntings. There's one, ghosts, which are basically human spirits who have died, who have not yet passed on. They haven't accepted their time, or maybe they died in an abrupt, traumatic way where they just haven't fully accepted that they have died and that they've moved on. And that's like common. He said not everyone becomes ghosts. It's more likely those who have died unexpectedly. They have a higher chance. He said these spirits will more than likely move on once they've realized and accepted that they have died. They will often seek out familiar surroundings. So they'll like stay at home or wherever they spent most of their time. For a long time, they won't realize they're dead. So they'll see their family members and they won't fully understand why everyone's ignoring them and not interacting with them. They'll be really confused. And this will get to the point where they will manifest like things moving. They'll try to reach out and contact their family members, which will scare them. And then the family calls Ed and Lorraine, and Ed and Lorraine come in, make contact with the spirit, tell the spirit it's time to move on. And Lorraine would do this with her psychic abilities, and then the spirit would move on. So that was like a lot of their encounters or investigations would follow that pattern, right? So it's pretty benign. It's a family member or someone who used to live there who just hasn't realized, and with the help of the Warrens would move on. That's the first type of haunting. The second type, you guys want to guess?
Demons.
It's what they call an inhuman demonic spirit. So to put
No bueno.
it straight, inhuman entities that have never walked this earth in a human body, diabolical spirits fixed in a perpetual rage against man and God. These ones, way more terrifying, way more dangerous. It seems a bit more rare, but they've had a lot of interactions and encounters with these as well. He goes on to say spirits are not limited by physical restraints. Some people were like, is it true that demons can't cross water? You know, they can't like do this, do that. And he said, nope, spirits are not limited by physical restraints. And even thinking about them is enough to call them. So have fun tonight, everyone. When you're lying in bed and all you can think about is this. All right. So that's a little introduction to the book, their backgrounds. How did these two get into the paranormal? What's their story? We'll start with Ed first. Any questions or anything so far?
No.
No, sounds good. I'm on board.
Cool. We'll start with Ed first. Ed was 5 years old when he had his first encounter that he can remember. He remembered growing up in a home with his family, and there was like a landlady who was a very old, crotchety, angry old woman. She kept to herself. She didn't have any family. She would spend most of her day looking out her window, trying to catch the neighborhood kids doing something wrong. And when she did, she would burst out her front door screaming like a banshee at them.
Straight up Matilda.
Yeah. Miss Trunchbull ass.
Yeah, Trunchbull right there.
So she passes away. A year or two later, Ed's 5 years old. He's in his room playing when he hears his closet door open up behind him. He turns around and he sees a small orb of light. And he's staring at this light in his closet. And the light elongates and gets bigger and taller until finally it takes the shape of the old woman. The room is cold. The feeling's bad. And I think she lunges out at him and then disappears. He remembers he was 5 at the time. He didn't fully understand that this was like an extra or a paranormal event. He didn't comprehend what happened, but he remembers telling his father, and his father said, Ed, never speak of that again. Do not tell anyone.
Tells everyone.
Yeah. So he put it in his book.
Yeah.
Lorraine, she actually grew up like...
Wait. Was that it on Ed and his experiences
That's
growing
like
up?
his first experience, yeah.
That kind of introduced him.
I have one from when he was a kid.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
It's short, but I believe it was his grandpa. His grandpa, in his old age, walked around with a cane. And he always knew where his grandpa was in the house because of the cane and the cadence of his footsteps. Grandpa passed away. Not long after, I think he was still in single-digit ages, so still young. But he remembers distinctly one night after Grandpa had passed away, listening to Grandpa walk around the house and then start walking up the stairs towards his bedroom. At which point, he enters into his room, and young Ed, had already
Under the
protected
covers.
himself with, the covers, so he's safe. But he's listening to his grandpa with the limp and the cane enter into his room, and walk back and forth around his bed. So that was another instance of because the first one was who? His grandma or
Just
the
a
crotchety old
neighbor
lady.
the neighbor?
Yeah.
Yeah, some
Okay.
bitch.
Yeah, yeah. So
I mean, his grandpa kind of was too. Like, damn, I'm trying to sleep.
leave
right
me
now.
alone, dog.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Stop creeping, homie.
But yeah, that was another.
Can't you see I'm sleeping?
That was another story of his childhood and how he was exposed to these kind of things at an early age.
Hell yeah. So things like that really solidified the idea that there's more after this life. And he remembers, or Ed talks about, like, he went to a Catholic school. They learned about spirits and God and the devil, and he was never really interested. He wasn't like a insanely devout kid. And at one point, I think he's visited by his grandma in a dream, and she says, "Ed, you are going to show the Catholic Church the way, but you'll never like hold office in the church or something like that. Like, you'll never be a priest." So anyway, he kind of knew he had some calling, but he wasn't sure. Meanwhile, Lorraine, she grows up like miles away from Ed. They're very close together. They met in their teens, and that's when they like started dating. So it's like a beautiful love story. But Lorraine remembers
That's good for Ed though. Like, he doesn't have to be clergy. He doesn't have to stay
Yeah,
abstinent.
best of both worlds,
He
dude.
can-
yeah, he's like,
He can have the
still-
blessings of heaven, dude, and still smash. You know.
you can still
I'm about
clap
that.
spirits and clap cheeks, baby. Clap sheets and cheeks, you know. But Lorraine, her earliest memory was at a school. I think she went to a Catholic school, and they were planting a tree out front. It was like this big event, and she remembers watching the nuns put the seed in the ground, and instantly when they put the seed in the ground, she sees in her mind's eye the fully mature grown tree. And she remembers staring up and looking at the leaves, and she's like in wonder, and she kind of thinks this is normal for everyone. She's really young. And one of the nuns sees her and says, like, "Child, what are you doing? What are you looking at?" She goes, "The tree, I can see it. Like, can't you? It's beautiful." And the nun says, Are you seeing the future?" And she goes, "Well, I guess I am." And the nun, like in classic angry nun fashion, like punishes her for weeks. And she kind of learns,
gosh.
this isn't normal. I should hide this. And it's something she kind of kept hidden for a really long time. Basically, a lot of it is like she can sense things, she can feel things. Sometimes she can see things. And a lot of it started with like auras. She thought everyone could see auras. And the auras would tell you like everything from your emotional, spiritual, and like physical state. So she thought everyone walked around this earth like seeing auras and could like read this shit from people. So these two met in their teens. They dated. They fell in love. At one point, Ed is called away to fight in World War II. He goes away. And when he comes back, he's gone to school for art. And so the two of them have decided they're going to be artists. And what they decide to do is marry their love and interest of art and their paranormal. And they travel the country searching for haunted houses. And this is what they would do. They would hear about a haunted house, let's say in Connecticut. They would go to that haunted house. They would set up an easel. They'd draw the haunted house or paint it. Then Lorraine would go up to the door, this young teenage Lorraine, she's probably like 18, knock on the door and be like, "Hi, like my husband and I were artists. We've heard stories about this house and we'd love to give you this painting if you'd be willing to share with us some information." And just like that, everyone they did that to pretty much, "Come on in." And they tell them their entire story. "This is what's happening. We have this haunting. We've seen this spirit, this ghost." And dude, they're like the original podcasters. They went around the US in their Chevy truck just collecting stories and stories and experiences. And it took them like states. They traveled all over the US doing this. And their knowledge grew and their experience grew. And they got strength +5 and magic +5. And they just like grew in this profession until it became like they're full on. That's what they did.
That's literally how they got their foot in the door
Ah.
of this
True.
world. That's dope though. Just painting the house and be like, "Yo, I painted your house. Now tell me everything
Yeah.
about it."
Yeah. And back then, people just were more trusting, so they just got into every door, dude.
Yeah, we try to do that nowadays. You'd be like, nah, get the out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm calling the police, and that drawing is evidence you're going to jail. You can show, if you want, you can show photo 2, DJ.
So what is this?
So they're popular. First of all, do you notice anything?
We're kind of blocking it, but...
Oh, they got the same lamp as you, dog.
I know. It's like it's meant to be.
That's amazing.
So their popularity grows. Their influence grows. And like I said, it gets to the point where like they're traveling the U.S., giving these lectures and like educating the public. And they're like called in as experts by the Catholic Church and by people. So if people have a haunting and they're getting desperate, like you don't call the Ghostbusters, you call the Warrens. And if they like hear you and they decide they want to help, they show up. So that's where we're
I wonder
how
they decided who to help and who not to help.
I bet it was a lot feeling.
Yeah.
Intuition.
Like reading the situation, talking to people. Yeah.
I'm sure severity,
Mm-hmm.
like how severe this case was. I wonder if they turned down any cases because it was too much for them.
Or too much, like too intense?
Yeah. Or if they took on every single one.
Bro, if they turn down some that are too intense, bro,
Crazy.
I want to know what the those ones were.
Yeah. Like this is the house that the Warrens refused to visit.
Ooh,
that's a crazy
maybe we
tagline,
have one of those.
dude.
Yeah. So their notoriety grows. They have more and more cases. And over the years, they start collecting artifacts and cursed items and keeping them in their home. And their idea behind this is some of these artifacts and like cursed objects are so dangerous that it's way safer if they keep them in their home where they regularly perform cleansing or prayers and blessings rather than having these things loose in the world where they can be used to cause harm.
Even
And
like
so-
they didn't even want to destroy it. One, because I feel like they needed the
It could
evidence.
release the spirit too.
That they also needed like the evidence to show like their work, amongst other things. Yeah, it was, if you have it in sight, in mind, like you have a sense more or less of control over it, I feel like.
Totally. Keep your enemies closer, right?
Yes.
Sean's exactly right. So right before we started, I found a treasure trove of videos, interviews, pictures of like a ton of Ed and Lorraine's like investigations and people going to the house and interviewing them. Like after they passed, spoiler alert, Ed passed away and Lorraine passed away in 2019. So they are no longer with us, but their estate, their kids, they've released like hidden tapes and hidden interviews. So I watched a ton right before this. And one is a camera crew are in like the haunted museum in their home. And like the door to this thing has deadbolts on it. And this room is filled with artifacts. Ed is like straight up. He's like, some of the things in here can kill you, like in a very real physical way. I need you guys to be careful. They're asking questions. They're asking about certain artifacts. And they said, well, why don't you destroy them? And Sean's exactly right. Ed's answer, he turns to him, he goes, well, these curses, these demons, these things, they need a physical shell to be latched onto. If I destroy it, I run the risk of destroying the shell, the host, but the demon, the spirit will just like be free, and it's like free to go find another shell. So I keep them trapped in here. And as they're talking, they come across a specific artifact. And as they're talking about it, all the lights in the house and all the camera equipment shut off. And then they come back on, and you can watch the video, but the guy who's like interviewing is like, so we just started this and everything shut off. And he looks at Ed, and Ed goes, it's time for you guys to leave. And when he says that, you can like feel the severity, and the guy's like, yeah, okay, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
So needless to say, this place is a treasure trove of occult, paranormal, religious artifacts. And it has some very notorious artifacts in this place. And DJ and I are going to be covering a couple of them, and they will be for our patron episode this week. So if you're interested in hearing about some of the craziest artifacts in this place that can literally kill you, head over to patreon.com/the3am-pod, where for $2 a month or however much you want to give, you'll have access to this bonus story and our whole catalog of bonus stories. And you'll support the podcast and help us continue to be able to do this. So we appreciate you. For our regular listeners, we'll be back in a moment. But for patron listeners, buckle up.
Let's go.
DJ, take it away.
So we're in the museum, right? And somebody in chat brought up.
Dude, that was awesome. I love that. So welcome back, regular listeners. You missed DJ diving into one of the scariest artifacts in the Warrens Museum.
Something
I
you
had no idea.
definitely
I'd never
don't
heard
want
of
to run
that.
into.
Yeah, for real. That thing that was terrifying. I guess, are you guys down if we do this, make this a part 2, like a 2-parter?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I feel like in this episode, we've done really good at like introductions to the Warrens, finding out about their past, their relationship with the paranormal, getting to know a little bit about the artifacts in their museum and their house. But we have yet to touch on any of their most famous cases. And to really like give it a full time, maybe next week, Sean and I can share those cases.
You want me to hold off till next week?
Is that chill, my guy?
Yeah, that's chill.
Are you you have one more story from the museum though.
So I will close tonight by talking about another scary artifact, and I think it's a doll.
Oh, dolls, dude. Sorry for my language.
No worries. And this thing is terrifying.
Yeah, it hears you. And we'll curse you for it.
It's not quite as in depth or deep as DJ's doll story, but I think everyone knows about one doll in the Warrens Museum, and that's Annabelle, right?
Mm-hmm. Which the real Annabelle looks nothing like the movie Annabelle. It's so
I don't
funny.
know which one's scarier. They're both terrifying.
Well, Ed actually talks about it. So
really?
I watched him talk about the case, and he goes, "It's a very basic looking doll. It's just a Raggedy Ann doll. It doesn't
looks
look
almost
like
the Wendy's girl.
Yeah.
Almost.
It's just an old Raggedy Ann doll. But this doll in the Warrens' place is called the Shadow Doll. And let me describe it before you pull up a photo.
Okay.
This thing came to the Warrens. They were in an antique shop somewhere, and when they saw it, they instantly knew something was up with this.
They're like, this doll is haunted.
Yeah. And actually, they felt that, and when they asked the owner of the shop, he basically gave it away to them. He was super like, take it. Like, it's yours. I don't want this thing.
He should have haggled a little bit at least.
So they look at this thing, and this thing, when you see a picture of it, you'll understand it's jarring, and they look closer at it. It's crafted out of parts of animals. So its head is covered in the feathers of crows. It has bones of different animals. And if you really dissect it, it has bones of humans in it. So through divining and figuring out where this thing came from, I don't know how, but Ed just very dryly explains this was created by a very evil man, and it was created with the sole purpose of harming others. And the way it would do it is you would sick this thing on people, and they would see it in their dreams. And if it got close enough to them in their dreams, it would choke them and stop their heart.
Oh, that's like who's that? You're in my world, bitch. Freddie
McNightmare,
Freddie
whatever.
Mercury, whatever.
Yep, exactly. Go ahead and pull up a picture of the Shadow Doll.
Hell no.
This fool got on chainmail, dude. You see on the left? That looks like chainmail.
So this thing is crafted by like feathers of crows on its head, and then like a ton of animal bones, and then a ton of human bones on the inside.
Do you see this? I think they pointed this out in the video. Actually,
What?
look at its mouth. I think there's a human tooth in it.
Oh,
yeah, it has human hair, human teeth, and human bones. You're right. I forgot that.
This thing looks like
detail.
it hunts Chucky.
Dude, this thing looks like it's looking at you, bro. Making eye contact.
It probably is, Sean.
Dude, it's coming for you in your dreams too. Like, you can't defend that.
This is like the final evolution of Chucky. You know?
Yeah.
So this is way more terrifying than Annabelle.
Yeah,
exactly.
Somebody in
Dude, I was
chat
like, why
said
don't we
that
talk
too.
about this thing?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's basically the extent of it. I'm very interested. Maybe before next week, I will watch those videos as well. Or
See
DJ,
what they
you
say.
can go through them and see if there's more stories from the museum you can share next week.
Yeah. Yeah. The museum
l-
looks so fun, dude. So
Let's
Let
go
me just-
spend the night.
Let me just wrap this up by saying that initial encounter I talked to you guys about where Ed's in his office and that thing hits him.
Uh-huh.
He was investigating one of the most famous paranormal cases in American history at the time. They had just come from a home in Long Island, New York, and in a place known as Amityville.
A little place.
And next week, I will dive deep into that case and the details of that and like what was sprung from that. So with that, and Sean has a fun case that he's going to cover next week as well.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited
Of course,
to hear. I have
Halloween themed.
Halloween.
The only werewolf case that the Warrens investigated.
I've
That's
never
crazy.
heard it, so I'm
Neither
excited
have
to hear
I.
it as well.
yeah.
Cool. I actually listened to a case where they hunted a real life vampire. So maybe we'll cover that next week as well.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, bro.
dude.
But
This is Van
needless to say,
Helsing, dude.
I'm excited that we got to cover this and dive deep into it. I'm going to try to power through the book, and next week we'll wrap up the Warrens. But that's it for me tonight.
That was fun, dude. I'm excited to get further into this. I'm gonna watch those videos. I'll throw it in the Discord too. People
Heck
want to
yeah.
watch along. But yeah, thanks Charles for doing all this work. Charles has an impressive outline of the Warrens within our notes, and he's literally halfway through. The last half looks way more dense though.
Yeah.
I think
all
we'll
the
pick and choose a couple
Okay.
and then
And just go with
dive
it.
deep into those.
And then
Yeah.
we can just kind of touch back on them every once in a while. You never know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I like that we're doing this. We're diving deep because now I feel like as listener and as like a group or a collective, it's like we have a more comprehensive understanding of a certain subject. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So now we
and
can
I
like
feel like
reference back to it.
it's easier for the listener and almost for us too. It's not so all over the place. It's way more nuclear.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know how much I thought of that effect, when we're talking about doing deep dives, but
Cool.
it's something that I'm about anyway. But thank you, Charles. Excited for next week.
Yep. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Keep sending in your stories. Send them you can go to our website. We have a link there where you can send your stories. We've been getting a lot, so our reserve is building up.
Yeah.
And we'll do a listener story episode coming up soon. Go ahead. Anyone can join our Discord. You can go to our link in our bio and Instagram. Yeah, what's it called? Does it have a name?
Just the 3 a.m. Scary Stories podcast.
The 3 a.m. Scary Stories podcast on Discord. Join the Discord.
I
If
just
you
sent
guys
the
wanna,
link in chat.
There you go.
If you want to help us research future stories, reach out to us and we'll get you added to the research team.
If you know of a story that we haven't even heard of too, hit us up on that Discord as well and be like, yo, y'all don't even know.
Like I said, speaking to the structure of the research team, originally when I thought of this idea, I thought it would be cool to have somebody. So, like, since they're kind of topical, like these episode deep dives, let's say me, Sean, and Charles say, okay, this is the topic I'm doing on this week. Each of us give those topics. Originally, I thought it would be best for whoever's most versed on that topic to like take it. I don't know. It can be more of a community thing. And at the same time, like Sean was saying, there are obviously things that we don't know about. There are topics that you guys have suggested to us. So we're open to you guys taking the initiative as the researchers to building, these stories, these deep dives, and giving them to us. So if that's something you already do, like some people already do that. Some people in the chat today on Discord were talking about like, I do this already, so this this will be more fun because it has more of a purpose. Like I'm doing it for you guys.
Cool.
So if that sounds like you or something that you're into, then we'd love to have you. So it's, I guess, in beta testing more or less right now, and we'll see how it goes. But
Sweet.
with that, anything else?
Nope. Bye, love you, be safe.
Trust your gut, watch your back.
Be careful out there.
And
Bye.
yeah, have a good spooky season, everybody. Love y'all.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of 3 a.m. If you want to support us, visit our Patreon, where patrons have access to exclusive content. If you're not able to support us monetarily, don't worry. This episode is on us. You can still rate and review us on whatever platform you listen to us on. It really does go a long way. You can also follow us on social media. Our handle everywhere, including Patreon, is the 3 a.m. pod. Finally, do you have any scary stories? If so, submit them to our website, the3ampodcast.com. We love any audio or visual aids that can help bring your stories to life. So file uploads are welcome with your written submissions. We're anxious and excited to hear from you.